Been a little while since I made a video. Wanted to give you guys something good, so that's why I've been waiting. But
I want to get you home and double up. Okay, I like where this is going. Let's take it from the top.
I felt like it was time to go ahead and do another one. I want to try to keep the video as short as possible, so I don't want to go too in-depth with the breakdown on the video. More so, I just want to show you a couple simple ways to give your drums some swing. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into the video that I got for you guys. Let's get there. Alright, so I'm going to be going over how to get your drums to swing. There's a couple different ways to do this. I like to do it within the sample, and what I mean by that is that most of the time, especially with older samples, things aren't exactly on the grid because it wasn't made, using a computer. A lot of times it was recorded live, so humanization has happened where everything's not exactly on the one. What I like to do, and it's kind of tedious, is I'll actually play the drums and I'll try to get them as close as possible without like quantizing anything, and then I'll nudge stuff as need be. That way it fits, especially if you can hear the drums in the background. I do try to filter that stuff out. That way you don't hear it quite as much. That way I can, put my own stuff on top of the sample. Obviously, if you're not sampling, you don't have to worry about that. But this more so pertains to samples. This is definitely, I guess, an older school form of production where, things were a lot more sample-based in hip-hop at one point in time. So, yeah, I'm just going to show you what I got, and then I'll kind of break down how I made it as I go along. Starting off with the sample by The Brighter Side of Darkness. The song's called Love Jones. I went on Who Sampled to find out, who all had used it and what songs it was used on. And I found this Keisha Cole song and decided I wanted to flip it. So this is the sample chopped up on the machine. Alright, so after I got the sample chopped up in the machine, I ended up raising it 2 semitones, dragged the pattern out into FL Studio, and then I can turn this off from here. And then from FL Studio, I ended up chopping it up a little more, used a couple different parts of the song, and this is what I got. Alright, after that, I ended up going ahead and doing a couple things with the sample. First off, I put an EQ on the sample just to cut out some of the low and some of the extreme high. Then I also added in some reverb from ROM by Native Instruments. Went ahead and got everything set up to the way I wanted it. And then I also have some automation on the EQ and the reverb at different points in the track. So that's what is going on with this stuff here. This is the filtered section of the sample, and this is what that sounds like. Alright, and then coming into the drums, and this is, like I said, where you get into swing and learning how to swing the drums, or not learning how, but, I guess learning how, whatever. But the sample is already kind of off time, and you can match the drums up with that. And that's the case in this scenario, because if you look here, the sample is not like directly on time. It might look like it is, but it's not. It's off a little bit, especially once you get in here. See here, it's off a little bit. So what I've done is when I played the drums in, I just took and nudged everything. Like if I zoom in real close here, you can see that, there's stuff that's not exactly on time. And that's what kind of gives you that more human sound, make things, not as robotic. So I've done that with the hi-hat. Just to give you a breakdown of what all drums I got going on here. I have a kick drum. I have a snare drum. I have 2 different layers of hi-hats. I have a open hi-hat. Let's see. I have 2 different open hi-hats, actually. A crash cymbal and 2 different crash cymbals and some toms. And it's all the way across the board, too, even with the kicks. So I've, made sure everything's not exactly on time. But if you listen to the sample by itself, you can faintly hear a little bit of the drums in there. And that's why I wanted to, make sure the drums matched up with what the sample already had. Even though I EQ'd it, there was still some that kind of bled through in certain points. You're not going to get all of it. Normally, you're going to have some kind of bleed through, whether it be in the upper frequencies with the hi-hats and cymbals, or some of the mid-range with like the snare drum and some of the top end of the kick, and some of the bass too as well, if there's like distortion on it. So yeah, I also have a bass in this too. It's from Bass Station. There's this first section here, and then there's a change up here in the middle, and then the new section that it comes into here. So in total, there's 3 different bass sections. All right, but let me wrangle this back in. These are what all the drums sound like together. All right, moving over to the first bass section. This is the sample and the first bass section together. Alright, so now you kind of get a picture of what things are starting to sound like. I'm not going to go into like super detail of like, all the panning and separation. What I will say though is that with this bass, I did end up having to go in here and change and merge the bass because it was only playing mono. It was only playing out of one side instead of the left and right in stereo. So I did merge that. That way it was balanced and was playing out of the left and right side. Put a little distortion on it too as well. I wanted it to shine through in some of those upper frequency registers. And, something light. I don't have anything crazy. The mix is real low on it. I also do have some effects in here as far as like breakdowns and stuff like that, change ups. That way, it kind of makes everything more cohesive. Also makes things a little more interesting. That way it's not the same loop over and over again. It keeps the listener interested. If you have any questions, I'm trying to do things a little differently and try different things. I want to try making videos where I've already made the beat and I can kind of like quickly go through a breakdown. If there's any specifics, I can kind of focus and hone in on those things. And it kind of cuts down too on editing, and you don't have all this filler. However, there are things that you do miss with that, as far as like, when I sampled this, I actually started with the sample in reverse. That'll come into play later on in the track. I didn't want to give it all away. I wanted to, let you guys wait till the end to find out what all happens later on. Sometimes you stumble onto things, and that's how I got actually this first section, was from the original start point, and things molded and shaped into what they are now. And that's what's cool about this. That's why I like doing this. Even if I never got big, I'd always be making music. This is just something that I enjoy doing. Until next time, hope you guys enjoyed everything. Tell the ones that you love them. Peace.